Welcome to the Hidden Palace with Skyblaze.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I'm Skyblaze, and this is the Hidden Palace, back for 2024 here on Radio SEGA. My initial intention was to broadcast yesterday, but the file store where we keep all of the music for Radio SEGA was not working correctly. In fact, if it had been any flakier, you could have put it in a yellow wrapper and had it sold by Cadbury. But managed to bypass it. Thank you ever so much to Nicholas Saman, who helped find the music that I'm using today, so I didn't need to try and have a fight with the file store. So, as we all know, things that may be completely fine in one country might not necessarily be okay in another country. Which video games can lead to things such as changes in name, changes, censoring of violence, or other activities. And there are other kinds of regional differences that we are going to take a look at in today's episode. First up, we have Athlete Kings, also known as Decathlete, which initially released in Japan's arcades in 1996, and then a Sega Saturn version was released later that same year. The first obvious thing is the name, because, as I've just said, it has two names. In the US and Japan, it was known as Decathlete, likely owing to the fact that all the features of the game's events you will see at a decathlon sporting event, so Decathlete Decathlon. While the European version was called Athlete Kings, despite there being 3 female competitors. Athlete Monarchs? Maybe? I don't know. Post your alternative names for this game in the chat. It isn't actually all that clear why the name was changed. And speaking of which, I'm going to get onto something that isn't clear, or something else that isn't clear in a moment. There's a couple of interesting tidbits that is notable about Athlete Kings. The first is that while the game has 8 playable characters in the Japanese and European versions, one character has been removed for the US release, and that is Jeff Jansen's, who was known as Robin Banks in the arcade release. There's no clear reason as to why he was removed in the US version. But if anybody does know what the reason is, feel free to let me know. The only thing that I could think of was it was something to do with the Robin Banks name, because there is actually, was a DJ, a radio DJ, quite a famous radio DJ actually, in the UK at that point. Although why was it removed from the US version instead of the European version, if that was the problem? And Jeff Jansen, is Jeff Jansen actually somebody's name? Was that the problem? It is not clear. So Pocket Larry is saying athlete democratically elected officials. Nick is saying, I guess it's technically got 3 names since some regions called it Decathlete and others call it Decathlete. And I think Decathlete was the Japanese one? Oh, who knows? It's a bit obscure. I'm going to loop my toe a bit. So the other interesting fact from this game is that the Japanese version actually has a hidden character, Mankichi Kazami, who was a character from a manga series called Decathlon. There's your link. Written by Yoshiro Yamada. To unlock this secret character, if you happen to have a copy of the Japanese version, you will need to do the following. Complete Decathlon mode having scored 8,000 points. On returning to the title screen, hold X while selecting your game and player, and this will unlock Kazami in the Japanese version. However, the US and EU versions still will get something if they follow this procedure. While Kazami is not playable in these versions, his voice is still available in the sound test. So if you follow the steps that I outlined earlier, the sound test will no longer end at number 166. It will instead you will get 167 onwards, all having Kazami's voice lines. Presumably still in Japanese, because I can't see that they'd bother to translate it if he wasn't going to be in the international version. Now then, let's have some music then, shall we? So from Athlete Kings, we have the 1500 meter race, and then our first request for this evening, we have F1 Challenge Suzuka, requested by Electric Boogaloo. So have a listen, and I'll be back after this music break to talk about the next game.
Hi, I'm Resident SD, host of Lay and Live, and when it comes to boosting your Sega education, there's no better place than the Hidden Palace on Radio Sega.
And we are back, and that was F1 Challenge Suzuka, requested by Electric Boogaloo, and then before that we had from Athlete Kings, 1500 meter race. Electric Boogaloo, the chat has been busy during the music break. Hello to the chat. Electric Boogaloo saying, in case you were wondering about the challenge, the F1 Challenge request, the original Japanese version of the game had a live commentary track, as suggested by its original Japanese title, F1 Live Information. When Sega Europe localized it for the West, they replaced the commentary with new music tracks, which were produced in-house by Adam Salkeld and Richard Jakes. So, that's another bit of useful Sega information. And I swear, Electro Boogaloo doesn't want my job, but really should be doing it. They know so much, it's really terrifying how much information they have stuffed in their head. And Gavi was also saying, wondering if the winter sequel to Athlete Kings also had any regional changes. And for those who are not aware, the winter sequel to Athlete Kings was called Winter Heat. And to the best of my knowledge, there aren't any significant changes between the Japanese and international versions. So it's converted from the arcade game, but has 3 added Saturn exclusive events for a total of 11, From the downhill to the bobsleigh to the ski jump, Winter Heat allows up to 4 players to compete for first place and world records. And also, Robin Banks is back again in Winter Heat. He's a secret character in Winter Heat, complete with a black and white striped outfit. Subtle. Nick's also saying that Jake's, or just Sega Europe in general, had a bit of a habit of mostly replacing soundtracks, so getting just to add to an existing one is definitely interesting. Resident, the Sega education comes from all sides in this show. Thanks, Resident SD. That's one of the nice things about having the Discord chat, is that you get little bits like this. It's nice, it's great. And I remain very jealous of Doan's. Doan went to a video games fair in Leeds and picked up some really nice Sega-related swag. I'm very jealous. But it's probably just as well I didn't go, because all my paycheck would just go on that. Bad for me. My list of games I have yet to play is still really long. So, let's move on. And let's loop the talkbed. So, my second game for this evening is Pandemonium. Released in 1997, this platform sees you playing as a court jester called Fargus, and his stick puppet called Sid, and an acrobat called Nikki, as they look to defeat a monster called Yungo. However, the Japanese version is somewhat different. Here our characters are Crumb, a graffiti artist, and Guppy, an aspiring actress. Okay. Together they come across a magic hammer called Sid, who had fallen from the sky. Alright. Sid tells Crumb and Guppy that they have been chosen to help save amazing land where people's dreams come true. Along with the change of protagonists, the game has a new introduction video, and is also known under a different name, where it is called Magic Hoppers. Thankfully, the gameplay and levels themselves are pretty much all the same, apart from a few fairly minor cosmetic changes. The first one being in the first level. At the start of the level, if you head left instead of right, you can then jump onto an arch where a power-up can be found. In the Japanese version, you need to knock a statue off the arch first, and then the power-up will appear. In an odd turnabout, the sequel Pandemonium 2 kept the characters of Nikki and Fargus, and the Japanese version, known as Miracle Jumpers, decided to keep Nikki and Fargus for their version as well. Although we don't really care too much about this, because Pandemonium 2 was only released on the PS1 and Windows, so not hugely relevant to Radio Sega. So yeah, it's interesting that the Japanese version of the sequel took the Western names of the characters and decided that that was the canon. That doesn't happen that often, as far as I'm aware. Let's have a look at what's going on. Electro Boogaloo's put up the artwork for the Sega Saturn versions of Pandemonium and Magical Hoppers. Developed by Toys for Bob. Why do I know that name? Is that the Crash Bandicoot people? Or are they one of the ones who are currently locked in a Call of Duty dungeon? Endlessly churning out shooty bang games. I'm not sure, because I have had a long week, and I went out drinking with friends earlier, so my brain is a bit fried. Fargus was originally Crash Bandicoot 4 Spyro Reignited. I thought there was something to do with Crash Bandicoot. So yeah. Cool. And also in the Call of Duty mines. I did remember it correctly! Well done! Let's have some music, shall we? So, from Pandemonium, we have Spider Forest. And then after that, we have another request, and this is from Ease. It's from Ease the Vanished Omens, and it is called Tower of the Shadow of Death, and requested by Doan. So please enjoy, and I'll be back after this music break to discuss the next game. And that was East, the Vanished Omen's Tower of the Shadow of Death, rather, requested by Doan. And before that we had, from Pandemonium, Spider Forest. Pandemonium actually has a really nice soundtrack, worth checking out if you can find it. I recommend pestering Nicholas Mann, because he is the demon ruler of the playlist and has access to all the things. And we're having a discussion about how the word East is written on the port, the Master System port. It looks like the way that they've put the punctuation makes it look like it's saying it's called Weiss instead of East, so it's odd. And Gavin's saying I've always pronounced this as Soleil, but I'm guessing I'm a smidge wrong. Soleil. Nous sommes du soleil. So the only reason I know how to pronounce Soleil is because of there's a Yes song called Ritual, which has the lyrics which are Nous sommes du soleil. So, even though I don't know French, that's probably the extent of the French I know. And Nick is giving pronunciation lessons on saying things. I was saying the other day we should have some idents on the station which are in other languages. I think of the staff we've got like at least 4 or 5 languages covered. And I can probably get some other people to do some more. Because I know at least one Spanish speaker and at least one Spanish speaker, German speaker, Japanese speaker. There's probably some more, I can't remember. But it would be nice to have some other languages in our idents, I think. Moving on. So, on to the most controversial pick of this evening. Sega Ages Volume 1. And no, I don't mean the one on the Switch. This game was released in the EU in 1996 and later in the USA in 1997. It was a compilation of 3 games, Space Harrier, Outrun, and Afterburner 2. While getting 3 games on one disc sounds pretty good, seeing as Japan had them sold as separate titles, it was not without problems. One of the big losses that was suffered in cramming 3 games onto one disc was cutting some of the music tracks which were part of the original one disc releases. Interestingly, near the back of the instruction manual for Sega Ages Volume 1 is a small translated excerpt from the composer of the included games, Hiroshihiro Kawaguchi. In it, he explains that when it was decided that they would go with arranged versions of the tracks over the originals, he debated over whether or not he should make the tracks as close to the originals as possible, or go at it from a completely different angle. In the end, he went with what he called free composition, and that's what we ended up with in the final product. And this was one of the ones that caused me a few problems when I was trying to find things in the file store. Because I could find Outrun, and under the Sega Ages name, and I could find Space Harrier under the Sega Ages 2500 release. Could I find Afterburner 2? No. There's literally about 16 different Sega Ages releases, and none of them are Afterburner 2 in our file store. And I don't know if that's just because the file store was being weird, or I'm missing something, but it was a bit strange. And Nick's saying working design's got to translate the message from Hero in this. Yeah. Oh dear, working designs. Let's not talk about that. Because if I start talking about working designs and their interesting approach to localization, I think I could probably get like 3 episodes out of that all by itself.
Oh, that's an idea.
But it's depressing. Because they kind of... The thing about working designs is they put a lot of pop culture jokes in it and a lot of kind of raunchy humor that isn't necessarily meshing that well with the actual tone and feel of the game. I mean, they're often still good games, but there's really jarring moments in them sometimes. But, you know, Nick saying, I do remember that Hero said Fantasy Zone was supposed to have a fully arranged soundtrack, but as per usual for Hero, but he didn't have enough time, so they just did the one song. And It's Purvis says Working Designs has a history. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Don't saying I like the weird translations, but I did not like the random making games impossibly hard. Oh yeah, I'd almost forgotten about that. They did mess with the difficulty in quite a number of games as well. Also not great. Let's move on, shall we? Pocket Lair is saying, at least nowadays we have unworked designs? Is that a mod house or something? Please elaborate on this, Pocket Larry, because I'm very interested to find out about that. But first of all, let's have some more music. So, from the Sega Ages 2500 release of Space Harrier, we have Battlefield, which is the sort of track I'd probably play during one of my DJ sets, to be perfectly honest. And then another request for this evening, we have Cyber Speedway Da Jam, requested by Electric Boogaloo, who is very reliable at sending me requests. So thank you very much for your service, Electric Boogaloo. So listen to that and come back, and I will tell you what Pocket Larry said about unworked designs. So I am fascinated to hear more about this, and then we can have Chip Chum Corner. So please enjoy.
listening to The Hidden Palace with the wonderful Skyblaze only on Radio Sega. Well, I guess if you're here, it's not that well hidden, is it?
And we are back, and that was Cyber Speedway, The Jam, requested by Electric Boogaloo, and before that we had, from Sega Ages 2500, Space Area Battlefield. And today I learned that apparently Sega Music Group were involved in the production of Train's first album, as in Drops of Jupiter Train, for UK indie rock fans. So that was a surprise. Train kind of did the one album over here and then just disappeared off the face of the earth as far as the UK was concerned. But they were trying to compete with, you know, every other indie rock band during that period, and there were quite a lot of them in the UK at that point. So, moving on. Yeah, I think Greyfor and I were discussing during the music break, I think we can get quite a lot of mileage out of Working Designs localization. We shall see. So, this week's Chiptune Corner artist was recommended by Pocket Aleri, and thank you to them. So, John Joy Tay is a Malaysian chiptune musician who describes themselves as a FM synth enthusiast. Though they're primarily an arranger, they have also written a number of chiptune tracks, which you can find on YouTube and Bandcamp. And I am going to link their Bandcamp on the Discord chat. There you go. So, where is my music gone? There it is. So this is going to be a track called Starfall. A lot of their music is really good, but quite a lot of it is kind of prog rock length, so it's like 6 or 7 or even 8 minutes long, which is great, but long. Quite long. So probably not ideal for a radio show. So here we have John Joy Tay, Starfall. Please enjoy, have a listen, let me know what you think, and I'll speak to you after this music break to close out the show. We are back, and that was John Joy Tay, Starfall. And Electro Boogaloo described that as sounding dreamy, and it does. The composer described it as being like a theme from a visual novel. And I can see that. Nick saying, visual novel, that's not the vibe I got, more forest and an RPGA, but I might be thinking of a more visual novel, a modern visual novel era. Yeah, I can see what you mean. But yeah, there's a definite vibe to that. I do recommend checking out their other work. They've done some really, really nice stuff. And so some of it's a little bit long for Chiptune Corner, but absolutely go and check out their work and throw money at them because they deserve it. So thank you everybody for tuning in, even though it was delayed and postponed, and yeah, thank you everyone who sent requests, and a special thank you to Nick Command for sending me the music, a lot of the music that I used in today's episode. I don't know what I'd do without Nick sometimes, because the nature of this show is that I take a lot of the things I work on and talk about are really obscure, which makes life difficult. Quite often before Nick took over as our playlist manager, I just have to use some track that was kind of vaguely related. So it's much nicer to have the actual music to play for you. So, stay tuned for Rex's fabulous Sega Mixer Drive, which is on in a bit. And if you have any ideas for a topic for a future episode of The Hidden Palace, you can get in touch with me. I am Skyblaze42 on Discord. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I am Blazing Skies on Blazing Skies at Blue Sky, blah 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 blah. You can find me on Mastodon, where I am. What's my name on Mastodon? I've forgotten. Skyblaze at the VIPVipers.space. Or you can reach me through the official Radio Sega social media channels. I hope you've all enjoyed the show. I've been Skyblaze. Also apologise to Kevin and the LMC crew for taking their slot because of everything going wrong yesterday. I apologise for that. Thank you for giving me your slot. I greatly appreciate it. I am not Kev Blaze, though. Kev Blaze is not returned. I've been Skyblaze, and this has been The Hidden Palace here on Radio Sega. Take care, everybody, and good night. I've got one last track to go out on. And if you are a prog rock fan, there is some influence on this song that you might recognise. I know I certainly did the first time I heard it. So this is from Sega Rock's Planet Palmer. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Enjoyed the show? Check out the full Radio Sega live schedule at radiose.ga/shows. Radio Sega, playing the best Sega music 24/7.